Third episode opens in Billings, Montana. A woman hitchhikes looking for a camping site several miles north. The guy who gives her a lift is pretty shifty, though, and he happens to have been watching her in the store just prior to this, too. At the airbase, Bex is called in for a meeting with Oliver Odell. He throws shades of doubt over Hassani's credibility. Odell goes on to mention how her colleague is the type of guy brought in to clear up problems. Whether Jacob has any involvement with the blast or is part of this big data scoop, however, is still unclear. For now, though, we're on to our next case of the week. This falls to a volatile young woman called Brenda Lowe. She's extremely unpredictable and was initially convinced for the murders of 17 people. The police believe there were actually more than 17 bodies, but they were never found. The corpses were badly dismembered, and this woman happens to be the same one we followed at the start of the episode. The world had been led to believe, though, that Brenda died back in 2015, but this is when the gang at the pit got her. As a result, Bex and the others hop on the jet over to Montana, but on the way they watch video interviews from Brenda, who likens what she does to killing hunters. Brenda grew up with wealth, but when her parents died, she became something of a social recluse. She bought a whole load of land out in Montana with her inheritance money, intent on rehabilitating the gray wolf population. Unfortunately, the longer she stayed out in the wilds, the more unstable she became. Brenda believes humanity is a cancer and should be eradicated, which explains why she's killed so quickly. The gang immediately head to the campsite, where they find the man's bloodied body on the floor. Given this doesn't fit Brenda's usual MO beyond the eradicating humanity part, Bex phones through to HQ to find out what's happening. Turns out they've got a ping on Brenda's location. She's used a payphone 30 miles away from their current location, where she's rung someone called Ron Goodman. When the gang arrive, it appears to be a wrong number. She's definitely not here to see this football player, but it doesn't take long for Brenda to kill again. She manages to get hold of a sniper and questions Bex and the others from afar, asking what they're doing. Turns out her land has been sold off by her lawyer, William, which only rattles her further. He used to write to her every week, and she alludes to the fact this is the only thing that managed to keep her going while stuck behind bars. Brenda notices one of the officers, a random Montanan guy, reach for his gun, and she pulls the trigger before leaving. The man is still alive, but his captain is chewed out, encouraged to stand down as rangers and let the experts handle this. Bex speaks to Oliver back at the pit to find out what he hasn't told them about Brenda. Here, he opens up, and it turns out Brenda was actually part of the regimented behavioral program called the Eden Protocol. This rep we've been hearing about. The idea was to give inmates an idealized world to lower their defenses. In Brenda's case, it came from the lawyer lying about her land. Of course, having this perfect facade ripped away is not something they ever banked on, given these inmates were supposed to remain locked up. However, it does mean that Brenda is even more volatile than she was before. Well, she eventually finds a group of kids out in the woods and holds them up at gunpoint. Bex catches up, and a standoff ensues between her and Brenda. She confronts Brenda about her facade of being a caring mother for her wolves. In reality, Bex knows that she never really cared and used all of this as an outlet for killing with a lust for blood. The monologue works to get Brenda's defenses down, and the gang eventually manage to subdue their target. When they make it back home, Bex speaks to Hassani out at the local bar. Earlier, Bex noticed that Hassani has footage of Odell on his tablet and calls him out for it here. Hassani is particularly troubled by a 2-year blackout for Odell, which occurred prior to him working at the pit. There's just no record of him anywhere. Bex chalks it up to rehab and getting away from the killing. However, Hassani has another theory. He shows off the footage from the pit, 3 minutes before the blast. Here, Odell very clearly transfers files to his flash drive after receiving a call from a burner phone with an encrypted SIM. Bex refuses to believe he's involved in all of this, but the evidence paints another picture. Odell could well be compromised, but there are higher powers at work here. We do see some of it that night as we cut across to Oliver Odell himself, who sits in a car and reluctantly hands over the flash drive to a mysterious woman.